Thank you very much, guys. Once again, welcome to our YouTube channel. My name is Stephen from Son of Mary Studios. Today we are going to learn basic introduction to Lightroom. The first thing you need to do is to import your files. You just click the import and then save your photos, and then you click import. So once your files are imported, you are ready to start your editing. So the first thing you do, you go to develop, and that's where you develop your photos. So Lightroom is divided in different tabs, and this is the photo that you're going to edit. So the first thing you do when you import your photos, remember here you do the correction. You are going to do 3 different basic areas that you need to understand very well in every photo that you need to edit. There is correction, there is color, and there is finishing. So the first thing we are going to do, we are going to do the photo correction. In case there is anything that we need to correct, we are going to use this basic tab. Color, we are going to use the tone curving, and then we are going to do the finishing. So the basic correction is just the basically, as the name state, basic correction. Here is where you do the white balance, and make sure that you don't have to color your image at this point. So the first thing you do, you can click here and select this, or you select this and select the area which is the whitest area, and then the Lightroom will do the color correction. Or also you can do it manually. I like doing it manually. You can just correct it in a manually. Just try to balance your colors. Just try to balance so remember, you don't have to change your colors at this point. So you do your white balance. This tab here, as you can see the temperature, depending the way, you just don't turn it that too much. Don't turn that too much. It will give you the amount of white balance that you need, and then you can change the tint. This is where you correct your exposure, highlight, shadow, white, and blacks. So most of the photos you shoot, if you shoot low, you understand most of the time that you shoot your photo are low exposed. You can just increase your exposure if your photo is underexposed, or even you can reduce the exposure if your photo is more exposed. So this one, you're going just to increase the exposure, and then the contrast, you can increase or reduce the contrast depending on the image and the look that you want. And then most of the highlight, you just reduce the highlight, and then you increase the shadow, just to make sure that those areas that has more shadow can be turned up. You can see them well, and then you can increase the white just a little bit, and then you reduce the blacks. These are the tabs that you need to understand about the basic correction. This year we do the basic correction. The other area here is presence. In this tab of presence, there is clarity, vibrance, and saturation. So clarity is mostly used for most of images which are very construct or washed out images. This is basically used more for product photography. It is popular in product photography or military photos. The difference between vibrance and saturation is this. Saturation is only used to bring up the color in your image, while vibrance is to bring up the color of your image while protecting the skin tone up to a certain point. So this one will just bring up all the colors, but this one will bring up the colors, protect the skin tone, and that is why it is highly used for portrait photography. So in this image, we are not going to use to change the clarity, but we are going to increase our vibrance up to a certain point, and still just to improve part of saturation, just to increase up to a certain point. That's the next stage to edit your photo, and this is where we are going to adjust our colors. So when you see the tone curving, one thing you see, there's this kind of a graph. It's a straight line which has a highlight, light, dark, and shadow. Basically this graph is used for just editing the highlights and the shadow. This upper side is used to edit the highlight, and the lower one is used to edit the shadow. So the rule of thumb here is to create an S sign. Just make an S curve. So you can come here and just bring this up slowly, and then you come here and just bring this down here. Just make a proper S. So you have just adjusted your highlights in the upside and then shadow to the lower side. That's the basic use of this curve. Most of the people love using this curve. We have HSL, this is hue and saturation. We have colors, and we have B and W, which means the black and white. So here the difference with these tabs, they are almost the same, only that this B and W is when you want to adjust you are editing your black and white photo, if you want to turn your black and white photo. But remember, when you're shooting, if you want the outcome of your photo to be black and white, make sure you still shoot them in color. By the time you come to edit here, then you can convert it to black and white. Let's go back to the hue and saturation this side. So the difference between hue, saturation, luminance, and then you can have the pattern. So the difference between hue and saturation, I want to repeat, hue is just actual hue of the color. But when you come to saturation, saturation is amount of color for a particular color. And that is why if you take a yellow and reduce this, you see it just reduce. You increase this, it increase the yellow. So take red. If you increase it, it will just increase the yellow. If you look at the lip of this model, if you increase the red increases. If you reduce, it reduces up to a certain point. Now luminance is just brightening of the color. So the best way to edit this, you just come here and use this tab for color. The reason being is this: if you select a particular color, like here we have selected yellow, you have a chance to edit hue, edit saturation, and edit luminance with a specific color. This part is used for toning the color, the shadow, and the highlight. Separate the split them and apply one color to the shadow or highlight separately. So you see just the highlight and shadow, and then every part has a hue and saturation. So it is just toning the color to the shadow and highlight, separate and sprint them and apply one color to a shadow or highlight separately. Now once you are done this, you are already done with the two parts, that the basic correction and the color correction, and you're now here ready to finish your image. Now when you're finishing your image, you have to bear in mind the use of the image. Maybe you just want to use it for social media, maybe for Instagram, for Facebook, or maybe you are just using it for printing. So this part here for details, we have different tabs here. This is sharpening, and there is amount of sharpening, the radius, details, and masking. This masking is basically used for landscape photos, but when using portraits, not that highly used. Now amount of sharpening, when you sharpen your image, it looks very well in your soft copy, social media like Instagram, but when it comes to the printing, it looks somehow washed up. So it is not advisable to sharpen your image where you're using it for your printing. But in case you're using it for Instagram or for Facebook, yeah, you can use it because it looks very warm and very sharp. Masking, as I told you, it is used mostly for wildlife or landscape photography. So noise reduction, Noise reduction is where if your photo has much noise, it never appeared fair. You can just reduce you can just reduce and correct the noise here. And most of the time this color, you turn it up there, just and the details, you just leave it that way. And then the last part here we come to the lens correction. Lens correction, maybe when you're shooting your lens, sometimes there is the lens, depending the sense of your camera, maybe you're using high frame full frame cameras, or just a crop sensor, and some of the time lenses just compress the images. Sometimes lenses compress the images, and just come here and just click them all, just check them all. Yeah, as you can see, this photo just corrected because the photo just compressed by some of this lens just compressed this photo. And when you do a knob of profile correction, and then you click this remove chromatic calibration, and then just click them all. Those are the basic parts that you need to understand. So the effects, most of the effects that I don't use that much, and camera calibration. Here is where you just have to calibrate colors. If you understand well about the color editing, and you just come here, and depending the color of your photo and the color you're looking for, you just come here. Maybe there's a red primaries. If your photo looks much red, you can use this to correct the colors and turn the colors that you want. Those are the basic things that you need to understand about the editing, using the basic thing that you need to understand when editing with the Lightroom for the beginners. There is a different tab here, as you can see. This one is just cropping. So you just click this, and then you just come and just crop your photo depending on the size that you want, maybe for Instagram, or just you want to do it for printing. And then you click enter, and then this part here is for spot removal. Maybe if there is a spot that you want to remove, you click this, and then you can select the size that you want. Or you can even use if you're using a mouse, you can just rotate the wheel to reduce the size, increase or reduce the size of the brush. And then maybe you come and select that part that you don't want. Maybe you can come and select something that you don't want here. Maybe you want to replace it. That's another point here, and then you click done when you're done. So you're going to click that, but you're going to undo that. So the other part that you need to learn is this red eye correction. This one is used to correct the eye if you're using a harsh flash, which make the eye look red. This one you're using to correct it. And then there is a graduation filter here. This graduation filter is just basically to help you just to adjust the light or color, mostly light in just a specific point. So what you do, this graduation filter, it works the same with the adjustment brush. This adjustment, the graduation filter, which mostly you have to use it in landscape photos or photos that you shoot outdoor. You just click shift, and then you just drag this. If you drag, you just want to adjust this part here in the upper side, you can just come here and just you increase the exposure or you reduce the exposure. You see, if you reduce the exposure, it's just the upper side that has been selected by this, and you can just drag it the way you want, or just the part you want. This one just to reduce this, just for elaboration. And then when you're done, you can just click done. So the other part here you want to understand is adjustment brush. The same way like graduation filter, adjustment brush is just to correct a certain point. So what you do, you just come here and reset. You click the effect, you double click the effect to reset the previous brush, and then you come here. Maybe you just wanted to adjust this part here. You just want to make this part look to have a different color, so you just come here and just blush, and then you come here. Maybe you want to reduce the temperature and make it somehow bluish, and then you just come here. Maybe you want to reduce the exposure of this side here. Maybe you want to increase or reduce the shadow, or maybe you want to select a particular color. You just click here, and maybe you want it to look more bluish, and you just select, and then you close here. You see, this one you help, then you can paint to all the different parts that you want. That is how the blush works. If you need it to reset, you just click here, you double click here and reset, or maybe you can still adjust those parts the way you want them to look. You can just click here and reset, and when you're done, you just click done here. So those are the most parts that you need to understand about in Lightroom, and most of these tabs you use for them for just finishing, and when you want to print your photo book, or just wanted to do to print directly from the Lightroom. And then when you are done, you just click your photo. You can just export your photo. One thing you can do, you can just click the photo and click export to that point that you want. Just click the drive that you want to save your photo, including the folder, and then you name your photo. Because you have just if your photo was just a low, here just come and select the area that the type of photo that you want. Maybe you want JPEG, you select the quality, image size. But here I advise people, if you want to use this photo and to export a specific size of the photo, maybe if you shoot it, or you understand your images will be more than 20 MB, and maybe if you want to post this for Instagram, Facebook, you can't use more than a certain amount, certain size of the image. So to set your size here, you can come here and just select this, the size of 2 feet, and then you go to the language, you select the language, set down to enlarge, and then you select the amount of the pixels that you want. You just work with the pixels, and then you select the resolution, and then you finish. Metadata, if you wanted to, here is where you hide the information of your image. That's when you click remove the personal information, remove the location information. And if you want to just apply the watermark, this way you apply the watermark, and then you go and select the logo that you want to put, or anything that you want to write to your image which appear in your wall. And then you just export your image, and then you just go and see your image. So those are just basic introduction to Lightroom for the beginners. Thank you very much for watching. Continue subscribing to our channel. We love you. Thank you very much. Son of Mary Studios.